The ROG Phone 6D. Our review is finally here and it will be different from our usual smartphone review because the ROG Phone 6D, well, it needs a little bit of introduction. We'll have a comparison with the ROG Phone 6 Pro as well, and then we'll go in depth to find out the differences between the ROG Phone 6D and also the ROG Phone 6 Pro. So let's begin. Okay, what is the ROG Phone 6D? Well, technically the 6D is the same as the base version of the ROG Phone 6. Everything is the same design, same cooling system, same motherboard layout with the chipset at the center of the phone, same battery capacity, and also it supports the same accessories as well. The only difference here is the chipset. The ROG Phone 6 and the ROG Phone 6 Pro both uses the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset, whereby the ROG Phone 6D and also the ROG Phone 6D Ultimate uses the Dimensity 9000 Plus chipset. The Dimensity 9000 Plus chipset, as far as what I can find, is created exclusively for the ROG Phone 6D series. It is pretty much a souped up version of the base version of the Dimensity 9000. But that is not the only difference though. The ROG Phone 6, the 6 Pro and also the 6D uses the exact same cooling system, but whereby the ROG Phone 6D Ultimate has something called the AeroActive portal, where the top part of the phone opens up so that if you attach the AeroActive Cooler 6 to that phone, then you will get some extra cooling out of it. However, since we only have the ROG Phone 6D with us, the only difference here is the chipset alone. So we have a direct comparison between the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 and also the MediaTek Dimensity 9000 Plus chipset. And if you want to know more about the gaming performance of the ROG Phone 6D, then watch our top right corner video there because we dive in depth in that as well. So if we compare the gaming performance between the ROG Phone 6 Pro and the ROG Phone 6D, remember the ROG Phone 6 Pro is technically identical to the base version of the ROG Phone 6, it's just that it comes with the fancy screen which is located here. And to draw a clearer line between the ROG Phone 6 Pro and the ROG Phone 6D, we have to look at the benchmarks. We used a few, but one that I really want to focus on is actually 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme Stress Test. It runs the Wildlife Extreme benchmark for 20 cycles in a row, and our testing methodology is simple. We make sure that both phones are in X mode, and we also left the phone to cool down to room temperature by just leaving it there for like half an hour or so before running the benchmark. And the results are, well, we can see that the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 manages to sustain 95.9% of its performance and only raise to 50 degrees Celsius at the most while depleting 12% battery over the course of the entire test. For the Dimensity 9000 Plus though, the performance stability is only at 76.1% and the temperature raised all the way up to 55 degrees Celsius, which is again the thermal limit of this chipset, but the battery depletion is also only at 12%. Funny enough, the starting temperature of these two phones, despite being left on the table to reach thermal equilibrium, is different. The idle temperature of the Dimensity 9000 Plus is at 30 degrees Celsius, whereby the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 is at 28 degrees Celsius. That's interesting. I'll also flash some other benchmarks results on the screen here real quick. Generally, the benchmark scores on the ROG Phone 6 Pro is higher than the ROG Phone 6D, and yeah, it's just across the board, a clear winner is drawn. I do want to highlight that I also added the Geekbench Machine Learning Benchmark, or ML for short, just for fun, and I discovered that the ROG Phone 6D generally is a lot slower for both CPU and GPU backend tests, but when it comes to the NN API, which is the Neural Network API, it took way too long to the point that the ROG Phone 6D got too hot and then the app just crashed. Okay, time for round 2 then, introducing the AeroActive Cooler 6. Actually, if you need an introduction to this cooler, then you can watch our dedicated review for this cooler at the top right corner there first. The reason why I'm bringing up this cooler is because I want to see how both of these phones will perform against each other if we mitigate the effects of heat from the phone. The testing methodology remains the same, but I have to connect the AeroActive Cooler 6 and then connect a charger to the cooler and then turn on the frozen mode in the Armoury Crate software. That will make the fan go full speed and also the thermoelectric cooler to turn on. I gotta say, the sustained performance of the Dimensity 9000 Plus improved a lot, but it is still not as good as the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Based on the data that we've gathered, the ROG Phone 6D is consistently hotter than the ROG Phone 6 Pro, even with the cooler running at maximum capacity. The same sentiment applies to all other benchmarks as well, so I'll just quickly flash them on the screen since nothing has changed. Despite having a fan though, the ROG Phone 6D still cannot complete the Geekbench ML benchmark using the NN API backend. I presume that this is because the algorithms are incompatible with the instruction sets of the Dimensity 9000 Plus chipset. Now, let's talk about the graphical quality available for these two phones to select from. Technically, both of these phones are using flagship chipsets, but somehow the graphical qualities available for us to choose are different. For example, PUBG Mobile is only available on 60 FPS for both of these phones, but PUBG New State has 90 FPS option on the ROG Phone 6 Pro but not on the ROG Phone 6D. COD Mobile runs on 90 FPS for both phones, so that's good because the optimization of the game is just better in general. As for Mobile Legends, both of these phones do not have the 90 FPS option and I do not know why. And this discrepancy is caused by either the smartphone manufacturer software, or in this case ROG, or because the game developers have some sort of whitelist that dictates what phone gets what graphical settings, and I just don't see any reason that these two phones cannot run games like PUBG New State at 90 FPS, so what gives? And that is also the reason why we put so much focus on Genshin Impact when we do our gaming test. It doesn't discriminate what phone you are running it on, so technically you can play the highest graphical settings at 60 FPS on the lowest end phone that you have, and you can still get some FPS numbers out of it. And since now that we are done with the performance numbers, let's talk about efficiency then. Both of these phones come with the same exact screen, the same resolution, and also the same refresh rate. Both also come with a 6000 mAh battery, so I set both of these phones at 100 nits of brightness and used the PCMark battery life test and tested out the battery life. And surprisingly, the ROG Phone 6 Pro with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 lasts a lot longer than the ROG Phone 6D. How about the charging speed then? Well, both of these phones are gonna be identical in terms of charging speed because they use the same dual 3000 mAh battery design and also supports the same 65 watts of fast charging anyway. The cameras are going to produce different results, and I took a few random shots during my recent trip to IKEA, and yeah, you can see that these two phones are just gonna produce different images because their ISPs are different even though that their camera sensors are the same. And that marks the end of our review of the ROG Phone 6D in comparison with the ROG Phone 6 Pro. As for the starting price, I'm gonna just list everything on the screen here. And some might say that our comparison here is unfair because we use the ROG Phone 6 Pro that comes with 18 gigs of RAM, whereby the ROG Phone 6D only comes with 12 gigs of RAM, which I disagree. The amount of RAM doesn't matter here since the RAM capacity is not the bottleneck. The RAM speed is the bottleneck. You can watch our other video where we talk about RAM in the top right corner there. And to those who say that I shouldn't be using the ROG Phone 6 Pro in this comparison, well, unfortunately I can't do anything about it because I only got the 6D and the 6 Pro with me for this comparison, and I'm just using what we have. The cooling system should be identical between the ROG Phone 6, 6 Pro and 6D, so this should be an apples to apples comparison. So all in all, despite being 100 ringgit cheaper, the ROG Phone 6D is just not worth the price for 3 reasons actually. Number 1, the performance is just not that good. Even though you most probably won't be able to tell the difference, the performance gap is very apparent. Number 2, the temperature of the Dimensity 9000 Plus chipset is just too damn high, and the temperatures are actually comparable to the Snapdragon 888 chipset on the ROG Phone 5. And that also means the efficiency of the Dimensity 9000 Plus is just not good. Number 3 is the graphical settings available. I don't know who controls all of these options available on your phone, but Snapdragon chipsets usually get better treatment compared to MediaTek chipsets. And this also proves that it doesn't really matter who manufactures your chipset, because if your chipset's architectural design is not good in the first place, then it doesn't matter. because both the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 and the Dimensity 9000 Plus chipsets are manufactured by TSMC's 4nm process, yet the Snapdragon chipset is clearly better, and that is because of their chipset design. It's just better in general, and that shows. So yeah, that's it. That's our review of the ROG Phone 6D, and I think this will be our last review for the year 2022. So yeah, if you have any questions regarding this phone, do leave them down in the comment section below. Try to help you out, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.